Hello everyone, and welcome to our thought for the week. I'm getting ready to have my breakfast. Would you like some breakfast too? What would you like? I've got a few different things here. We could have a cooked breakfast. How about bacon and eggs? I bet if I cooked those they would be lovely. The eggs could be fried or poached or scrambled or made into an omelette. Or perhaps you'd prefer some cereal. Or we could make porridge. How about a continental breakfast? Would you like a croissant? I've got some lovely strawberry jam to go with it. A glass of juice to go with that. Or you could have one of my favourite breakfasts, it's what I have most days, a piece of fruit and some yoghurt. All of these breakfast things remind me of a story that happened after Jesus rose from the dead, when Jesus made breakfast. Now, the thing about what happened after Jesus rose from the dead was that he wasn't there all the time. Some of the time he went into heaven to be with his Father, and some of the time he was here on earth with his friends. And he moved about, and his friends were having to get used to the idea that Jesus wasn't here and that they had to get on with their own lives and do their own things. And to be honest, they were feeling a little bit lost. What should they do? Would they carry on travelling about like they did with Jesus? Or would they go back to their old jobs that they did before they met Jesus? Peter and his brother Andrew and his friends James and John and some of their other friends decided that perhaps they would go back to what they'd done before, and that was fishing. And so one night they went out onto the Sea of Galilee to do some fishing. In hot countries, fishing is often best at night because during the day the water gets too warm at the surface for the fish to be comfortable, and they go very, very deep down. But at night, as the water gets cooler, the fish come up and they're easier to catch. But that must have been a warm night, and the fish didn't come up. And by the morning, Peter and Andrew and James and John and the others hadn't caught anything. Their nets were empty. Oh, we're not even any good at fishing anymore. What are we going to do with ourselves? And then they looked out at the shore when they were coming towards, and they could see that there was someone there. And that someone had made a fire, which probably meant they were cooking something. The person was looking out for them. And as the boat got a little close to the water, the man who was cooking at the fire stood up and waved and went, "Hello! Hello over there! Hello!" And the disciples waved back, "Hello!" And then the voice said, "You haven't caught any fish, have you? Cast your net on the other side. Just cast your net on the other side." Peter and Andrew and James and John scratched their heads. Had something like this happened before? Was this a bit familiar? Well, they might as well try it. So they cast their net on the other side, and suddenly, even though the sun was rising and the water was starting to get warmer, their net was full of fish. So many fish, the nets were really heavy. And then they looked at each other. Well, you know who that must be on the shore then? It must be Jesus. Peter was so excited that he jumped out of the boat and waded through the water to get to Jesus as quickly as he could, while the others dragged the net full of fish into the shore. And when he got there, Jesus had already made some breakfast. He'd got some fish already and he'd made some bread. So there was some lovely flatbread and there was some delicious smelling fish barbecuing over the fire, all ready for them, and they realised that they were very hungry indeed after a hard night of fishing. And so they all enjoyed a lovely breakfast together. Jesus really valued his friends and he wanted to look after them and show them that they were special to him, that they mattered. And that's why he made them breakfast. On a morning when he knew that perhaps they were feeling a little bit low because their fishing had gone badly, he wanted to cheer them up and do something special for them. Do you ever do that? Do you ever look out for when someone needs a bit of cheering up and try to do something special for them? Perhaps by bringing them a lovely breakfast tray, or making them a nice card, or inviting them to come and play with you. Peter was scratching his head. He was still feeling really confused. I'm no good at fishing. I don't know what I'm supposed to do with myself. And Peter also was feeling low because before Jesus had died, Peter had let him down. Peter had been frightened of the people who had attacked Jesus. And so when they spoke to him, to Peter, he'd said, "No, I don't know Jesus. I don't know him at all," which wasn't true. Jesus knew Peter was going to do that. And to be fair, I think most people would have done that to protect themselves. It would have been instinctive. But Peter wished he hadn't said it. He wished it could be unsaid. "Come for a walk with me, Peter," said Jesus after breakfast. And as they walked along, Jesus said something to him that helped him to feel very much better. He asked him a question. "Peter, do you love me?" And Peter said, "Yes, Lord, you know that I love you." And then Jesus said, "Feed my sheep." And they walked on a little bit further and Jesus said to him again, "Peter, do you love me?" "Yes, Lord, I've just told you that. You know I love you," said Peter. "Good," said Jesus. "Feed my lambs." And then, a few steps further on, Jesus asked the same question again. "Peter, do you love me?" "Lord, you know I love you. I really do. I love you," said Peter. "Yes," said Jesus, "I know. Feed my sheep." Now Peter had said 3 times that he didn't know Jesus and regretted it so much. But now he had said to Jesus' face 3 times, "I love you." And Jesus had said to Peter 3 times, "Feed my sheep," or "feed my lambs." Do you remember that Jesus called himself a good shepherd? So Peter's job was going to be a kind of under shepherd, to work for Jesus and look after the sheep. Now that didn't literally mean going and looking after actual sheep. It meant looking after the people that followed Jesus, people like you and me. And so Jesus was finding a special way to say to Peter, "I value you, I forgive you." He'd made him breakfast and he'd spoken to him. He'd given Peter a chance to make things up and he'd given Peter a special job to do. And all of those things helped Peter to feel very much better. Now most of us can't give someone a job, but we can show people that they are valued. I wonder what you can do this week to help someone feel that they are valued. Will you make them breakfast? Will you tell them you love them? Dear God, thank you that we have friends who value us and that we can show we value them. Please help us through our invitations to play, through the help we give people, through the way we talk to people. Help us to show that we value our friends too, just like Jesus did with his friends. Amen. So, here's Canon Beverley's challenge for this week. Think about your friends and your family and show them that you value them. Maybe you might even make them breakfast. Have a good week. Bye-bye.